You're listening to the Patriot Nation podcast.
All right, welcome into another edition of the Patriot Nation podcast. As always, your guy Pat Lane here with my man Matt St. Jean. And Matt, our pets' heads are falling off. Like, what the hell is going on with the Patriots? They're 1-3, and to make matters worse, two of their captains are down for the year now. Just an absolute dumpster fire over in Foxborough.
Yeah, it's a tough time, and we thought the season was going to be rough. We thought the roster wasn't very good, and not a whole lot you can do when, like you said, all the pets' heads are falling off on top of all of that. The last time they played a home game, we had optimism for this season, and they've returned back to Foxborough in worse state than ever. So we'll see what happens, because this is a Miami team coming in that's also in pretty terrible shape.
Well, and to me, that's the biggest part of it, right? Is that at least the Bears are in a really rough spot too, at least. But man, the Patriots just, and look, they weren't a very talented team to begin with, right? On paper, and you talk about, probably one of your best defensive players in Christian Barmore, another of your best defensive players in Matthew Judon, another one of your best defensive players who didn't practice and left the game injured last week, Kyle Duggar. Peppers is another one of your best defensive players. He was hurt and didn't practice today. So you start looking around, and then you say, oh, the offensive line. Okay, well, we started 4 different left tackles in 4 games. Now the center's out for the season. Your left guard came back finally for the first time. Like, it's just an out-and-out disaster. All over the board. And so the hope is that somehow we can get healthy and maybe be a little bit competitive. But my goodness, it's pretty rough right now.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah. So to put it mildly, and I think we'll get into kind of the Drake Maye stuff. But I will say the one thing, and TD mentions that Andrews might be done for the year and so on and so forth. And I'm with him on that, or might be done for his career. I'm sorry. I will say that the original report that came out said, if he could play on it, but would need surgery next year and lose next year, that was the decision, right? That maybe he could play through it and then lose next year if that were the case. If he were going to retire, maybe that wouldn't matter. So maybe he will be back next year. But I also wonder too, like, if it was simply a pain tolerance thing, that like he just literally couldn't play, right? He just couldn't. And so I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm just trying to find the silver lining here. But I don't know. I have a suspicion that David Andrews done as well, and it's a sad way for him to go out.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens. I think what your initial report was that he was going to think about coming back this year and kind of weigh whether or not he could play through it versus surgery.
Yep.
Because the issue was if he plays through it this year, he could re-injure it to a degree where he misses next year, I think is what they said.
Yeah.
And a couple hours later, it comes out that he's choosing the surgery, going to forgo the rest of this season. So, you talk about, first of all, what that means for him, like you said. We don't know what the future holds for him. I think he hopes to come back. I think you'd hope that with a little time off, maybe he's refreshed next year and can bring something special to the table. But for this team, it's next man up, and it's going to be difficult because David Andrews is a force in the locker room and one of your captains for a reason. Mentally, he's a very strong player who lifts all of those around him. And, Nick Leverett's the next guy up. And right. This is a guy who, we talked about in camp. There were some issues there. So, it's time to put those behind you and try to make this thing work.
And I had heard that Nick Leverett did not get a ton of snaps today at center. Well, I guess
No, he was
give a ton of snaps today at center. And was it City So at left guard or Leighton Robinson at right guard? I think it was So. Michael Jordan was in there for one of the guards for a while.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Because should we just go through and list the injury report real quick?
Yeah, let's do that. That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's on the ticker at the bottom, as it always is, but this is a good episode to actually go through it because it is extensive. So it did not participate. Got 5 players here. David Andrews with the shoulder. He's anticipated to be put on injured reserve. Kyle Duggar, who missed most of the last game against the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
KJ Osborne with a shoulder injury. Jabril Peppers with a shoulder injury. He was on the injury report earlier this season with a hip injury and was questionable to play in Cincinnati in the opener. So this is, that's something different. And then Caden Wallace also did not participate. He's dealing with an ankle injury, got rolled up on that 4th down play in the second half. And then your limited participants, Jaheim Bell with a neck injury. We didn't really get into it because it wasn't relevant, but they called up Mitchell Wilcox to play in the last game. And I'm wondering if that was a factor in that. Anthony Jennings, limited. He missed the last game. Jonathan Jones, limited. Michael Jordan, Nick Leverett, Vidarian Lowe. So that would presumably, that might be the starting left side of your line, potentially. All 3 limited, all with lower body injuries. Layden Robinson, who's been your right guard, limited with 2 different injuries, ankle and wrist. And then 3 names that are on this list in a positive way, which I think we can get deeper into later. You've got Kendrick Bourne, Marde Mapu, and Sione Taki. As they make their way back from injuries, they're practicing now, and I think Gerard Mayo said he's not willing to rule them out for this week. Like any of them could play this week.
Theoretically, right? They're technically still on the PUP list, but their practice window has opened, and so I believe once you open the practice window, they have to play within 3 weeks. Is it 3 weeks?
You have 3 weeks to either activate them or they're done for the season.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought it was 3 weeks. Yeah. So we'll see. But it was nice to see Bourne back out there. I still think that Marte Mapu should be the linebackers, but that's neither here nor there.
Like the way things look right now, I mean, they're hurt at linebacker and safety. They need the depth everywhere they can get it.
Yeah, that's true. It's interesting, and there's obviously some questions about the offensive line, but I think that this one, to me, this is the real question to me, right? TD says now that Andrews is out, how do you start the kid, right? You can't put the kid in harm's way. Do you redshirt the kid for the rest of the year, right? Obviously referring to Drake Maye, but look, I think the biggest thing for me is that, the David Andrews thing is the biggest issue, right? And you can talk about, they didn't draft an offensive line and they didn't do this and they didn't, which by the way, they did draft 2 offensive linemen, but that's neither here nor there, and they didn't address it and they didn't do that and whatever. And we can blame whoever you want for it. We can play the blame game all you want. It doesn't matter, right? They're in the position that they're in right now. And so the question then becomes, do you look at starting Maye at all, right? Can you put Drake Maye behind that offensive line and forget about the rest of the offensive line? The issue for me is the center, because the center is the quarterback of the offensive line, right? And so for me, when I start looking around and I say, okay, he gets the protection right. Well, how does Nick Leverett do with the protection? I don't know. I have no idea, right? And maybe he did okay against San Fran, maybe not, because Jacoby Brissett still got killed. So, but who knows how much of that was on the protection calls and whatnot. I have no idea, right? And so that then becomes the question. If Leverett can't do it, now you're talking about, I don't even know who the backup center is at this point, right?
The next guy would be Brian Hudson on the practice squad.
So Brian Hudson, great. Can he call out protections? So that's the stuff that I worry about. I understand the guards and tackles, but that stuff, it is what it is, and they may not be as good. I think Drake Maye, has the athletic ability to get the ball out quickly, right? To make some things happen with his feet and extend plays and move outside of the pocket if his guys get beat. I think he has that ability. The real question then becomes to me is, can we get in the right spot to not screw it up, right? And that's the issue for me, where I wonder, like, all right, if the guys stink, they stink. But if they stink and they're not on the same page and the calls are getting screwed up, and now May's got to worry about that too, that's something I don't want him having to deal with as a rookie. And so, I might just say, you know what, throw it on the back burner and let's see,
Well, the coaches did say, or Drake Maye did say that these are going to be independent. The center health situation and the Drake Maye situation.
Right.
It's tough because, the more injured the offensive line gets as a whole, I think the closer we get to Drake Maye playing with the number of shots Jacoby Brissett has taken back there. One of these times he's going to get hit and he's not going to be able to get back in for the next snap, and Drake Maye is going to have to play. So, I think that becomes more of a reality, unfortunately. What I will say is this: if you want to look for silver linings, I guess that's like the right way to put it. But Drake Maye is probably more comfortable with Leverett because they've been, working together. They were the guys who were together in the preseason. True. And, David Andrews has not looked like himself this season. I think there was a nagging injury before this. I don't know if it was the same thing. He definitely looks a little bit older. You're going to lose a lot mentally when it's not David Andrews out there. But Leverett may actually be slightly more capable at this point at making the actual blocks.
Right.
So, we will see how this translates to the field. But Leverett was not an issue on Sunday. He came in and played admirably. Yeah. And as long as the snaps are fine, I think the physical aspect of playing the game, I don't think you're going to see too much of a drop off, at least with Leverett out there. But yes, the calling the protections becomes your biggest thing. Right. And I don't think it means you can't play Drake Maye, but what I think it does mean is that you have to be a lot more confident in his mental ability to call that out himself, or you have to be very confident in what Leverett can do. And Andrews has obviously been here for a while. It is a new offense, and Leverett is also a veteran. So, right. You might not get, if this was a Josh McDaniels offense, you're going to be losing a lot. You're going from a center who's very, very experienced in that offense to someone who has never played in it before. You're getting somebody who's a veteran who's been around the league in Leverett. So he's not David Andrews. I think he can do the job. It's just not going to be at as high of a level mentally. And that's where you're probably going to need Maye to try to pick up the slack, which, let's face it, no matter when he comes in this year, and he is going to come in this year still at some point, even if it's just for, week 8, he's going to play at least one of these games. I guarantee that.
Right.
He's going to have to be picking up slack for people around him. This isn't a good team. He's number 3 overall pick. You draft a guy like that because you think he's capable of doing that from a pretty early point in his career. It's just going to be a little bit more now. And, you don't draft him if you don't think he is mentally capable of doing all of this stuff. So, right. This is, what we were talking about before. It's never the perfect time to have a kid. It's never the perfect time to put the quarterback in. Sometimes you just got to do it. And you're having faith that the stuff you've learned along the way is going to be enough to get you where you need to go. And the rest you learn as you do it.
Right. And you're totally right. I mean, we'll see. I'm curious to see what the offensive line looks like when everyone's healthy. Let me tell you, Patriots fans, let me tell you something. If I had told you that we would be wishing for Vidarian Lowe to come back healthy, that's where we're at right now. We are just waiting for Vidarian Lowe to come back healthy. And we're like, once that happens, we'll be okay, right? We'll be at least kind of okay, right? We'll be in a decent spot. Like, what the hell is going on, man? That we are dependent on Vidarian Lowe being healthy to play left tackle for us. And DeMontre Jacobs, I mean, the hard thing with him is that you just don't know what you have with DeMontre Jacobs because, he's going against Nick Bosa. and he lost a lot to Nick Bosa, but like so doesn't everyone, right? Like that's so like it's hard to know if he can actually do it or not. The guy that's interesting to me is Caleb Jones. Like Caleb Jones, you're talking about like 6'8", 390 or whatever. The guy can't get on the field. It's crazy to me that a guy that big can't get on the football field. He must really suck. His technique must be terrible because a guy that big, you just figure like just throw him out there and see what happens, and they're not even doing that, which is interesting to me.
Yeah, he didn't even get. I mean, I don't think he's played in a game
No.
yet.
Nope.
He played in one last year for Green Bay, and he played one
Okay.
single special teams snap. So that's his career in the NFL. Yeah, no, I mean, I think I want to say he's older too. Yeah, he's 25. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's an older guy for a young player.
Right.
And yeah, we'll see if that turns into anything. But yeah, this is the issue with the offensive line right now is kind of something we've been talking about since training camp. It's on one hand, you want cohesion so the players can build and learn together. On the other hand, you can't get cohesion if one players get hurt. But two, I think more importantly to this discussion, none of the players are good enough that you consistently want them in the lineup.
Yeah.
Like that's right. The mainstay of the lineup right now might be Vidarian Lowe at left tackle. When David Andrews is healthy, him at center, now it'll be Leverett there. But those are like the two spots where it's like, I know that when this guy is healthy, he is going to play this spot on the offensive line. When he's going to be in there, I don't know which spot he's going to play. Layden Robinson, I don't know if he's going to play if he's healthy. City So maybe in that territory at left guard, but like it's not out of the realm of possibility that they decide a line that includes Michael Jordan at left guard and City So at right guard is the way they want to go at some point in here with Onwenu at tackle. Maybe they want to move Onwenu into right guard and So at left guard and Wallace at right tackle. There's a lot of ways that they can shift those other spots around to figure out what they want.
Right.
And that also makes the cohesiveness hard because one of the issues this line has is like this line's not great at one-on-one blocking, but everybody they put out there can do it. If it's just a straight one-on-one, they're starting five, they can handle that on a reasonable basis. It's once that gets into things with the other linemen involved where they start to have issues. And we're talking about a situation where at least one of the linemen on the left side is somebody who might be switched out, and at least one of the linemen on the right side, if not both of the linemen on the right side, might be moved around. So that just makes it so much harder for those guys to build those communication skills and the chemistry together. And I don't know what the correct answer is going forward. I doubt they know in the building right now what it is. It's going to be a whole lot of trial and error until you find something that either seems to work or you reach the end of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and so we'll see. By the way, I know TD's very upset about Elliott Wolf, and I don't necessarily blame him. I think Elliott Wolf definitely deserves some of the blame here, but I know Elliott Wolf's been here for a while. I get it. But blaming him for the personnel decisions of the past is like blaming Gerard Mayo for the coaching decisions of the past. You can't do it. Yeah, he was a guy in the front office here. That's true. But he also had Bill Belichick ahead of him, right? He didn't have the final say. And we can talk about whatever you want. And you can talk about, well, he had a say and he did this and he did that and he did that. Okay, like fine. But ultimately, he has that issue, right? Where you look at it and say, like, Belichick was ahead of him, right? So now you're in this situation where how do we fix everything? We have to fix quarterback, wide receiver, offensive line all in 1 year. It's not possible. And so, that's unfortunately, that's just the way it goes. You have to, you had to pick something. You picked quarterback, which I think was the right choice. You picked wide receiver in the second round because at that point, the only real difference maker was at wide receiver and not at tackle. And then I wish they had moved up into the end of the second, but they didn't, or they tried to and weren't able to. I don't know. And so you took Caden Wallace in the third, and we didn't love the pick at the time. But it is what it is. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. And when he asked the question, he's given the example of Washington, how Washington cleaned house and looks better now. They do. I will just remind you, Dan Quinn is the head coach over there. It's Dan Quinn. Like,
Also, 4 games into the season, like I'm not going to make any
right.
big judgments based on anything at this point because strength of schedule matters so much when the sample size is this small. And every team has had 2 or 3 games now where their opponent hasn't been able to scout them really because it's still so early that everybody's still picking up what the other teams are doing. So let's see if Washington still looks like this in a month, in 2 months, in 3 months. If they do, then I think they deserve a ton of credit. I want to see it because I think there are a lot of pieces in that group that I don't feel very confident about from the outside.
I would agree.
Yeah. But, I think obviously Elliott Wolf deserves responsibility for what the offensive line looks like right now because he's the man responsible. But I do think it's worth, thinking about this from the perspective of what we think they're trying to do, which is, a lot was made of the Green Bay philosophy of drafting and developing. This is what the developing part looks like. This is like you play rookies and sometimes they aren't good, but you keep playing them to see if they get better. And if they don't, you address it the next offseason or 2 off seasons later once you've given them time to, show what it looks like. We will see. Like, I think it's valid to say that they didn't do a good enough job, the whole front office, of making sure this line was playable, but it does seem like the idea was to re-sign the players you knew were good on the line. So extend Andrews, re-sign Onwenu. They have veterans that added a veteran at tackle in the core 4. You add a veteran at guard and center in Leverett. You add another veteran in Michael Jordan to kind of give you a floor at the position you think. And then the idea is that the rookies will develop around that. The problem was that Okorafor leaves the team. Jay Andrews gets hurt. City So gets hurt. Obviously, the team knew that Cole Strange wasn't going to be ready to go early in the season, so he's not a factor in any of this. And with all of that, the rookies have not looked great, which I think is an issue.
Right.
That is something they have to fix. But we're in the develop part of this, so let's see how it looks throughout October, into November, into December, into January, and see if these players look better than they do right now. That's what you're banking on. That's the whole philosophy here. Get young guys in the building, let them work with the coaching staff, improve, and almost it's not 1-to-1, but there's almost like a college program in some ways that where you're getting people to buy in, and throughout a season and over multiple seasons, they become better players.
Right. But I agree with you. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And that's so we'll see. We'll see. And I just, we need to give these guys a little bit of time too. Let's give them a little bit of time as well, right? Also understand that, and let's just use the Washington example. The Washington example is a good one because they're playing Jaden Daniels right now, right? They have an offensive line. Now they have a rookie left tackle who has looked good through 4 weeks. And so we'll see. Now he was a guard / tackle coming out of TCU, Brandon Coleman. People didn't know whether he was going to play guard or tackle. He's been playing left tackle. He's looked pretty good. He's looked okay. He hasn't looked amazing, but he's looked pretty good. And they signed Tyler Biadasz at center. Patriots weren't going to sign a center. And they signed, I don't even know who the left guard is. They signed a left guard too. And the other 2 guys on the offensive line are holdovers from before these guys came in. You're dealing with an offense with a number 1 wide receiver, right? With an older tight end, but a guy that can do it in Zach Ertz, and a quarterback that can move and run and is electric. The offense is wide open for you. You're in New England. You have no number 1 wide receiver. You have no juice from anyone, really. And you're playing with a very limited quarterback. A guy that can run the system, sure, but not really. I'm sorry, but not really great. He's just not very good. And so that's what you're dealing with. So, yeah, it doesn't look great right now. Again, we're 4 games in. We're 4 games in, 4, right? And I will say, like Evan Peters, which is who the Patriots, who GM is now the GM of Washington, is a guy that we talked about coming here. And no, Scott Peters. No, it is Evan, right? Is it Evan Peters?
I don't know who Evan Peters is.
Who
Adam
the
Peters?
hell? Thank you. That he's the GM of Washington, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Golly, I had the last name right. But either way, look, he's a good player. He's a good GM. I think we'll see. There's a long way to go, right? There's a long way to go, and after 4 games, right, we can look at it and say, "Screw you, Chad Rowan," because if the Patriots had the second pick, they'd have Jaden Daniels, and maybe he'd look better. I don't know, right? I don't know. I still believe in Drake Maye long term. I still think he's going to be a solid quarterback. I'm still happy with the pick. But Jaden Daniels has proved me wrong for 2 weeks, or for 4 weeks, I should say. So we'll see. We'll see what happens moving forward. But look, point fingers at whomever you want, right? That's not going to fix any of the problem right now. I think that you're giving Wolf and Mayo a few years. I would say you're giving Wolf a little bit less time than you're giving Mayo, simply because Wolf has been here before, right? And so, you know what I mean? And so that's fine. By the way, Evan Peters, I think, is an actor, I believe. Okay. I think he plays not the Quicksilver from the MCU. Anyways.
Okay. I think I think who would get more time in theory here between the head coach and the GM is also going to be partially based on what it looks like and the way it plays out. And also it depends on who has the power here. If Kraft has the final say over either one of them, I don't see him. I think he's going to be more loyal to somebody like Mayo, who's been around the team the way he has. And if it's the traditional power structure, then Mayo is going to be the first to go if there's an issue, because the GM will make the call. So we might learn a lot about the Patriots if it comes to that. But I want to point to another team in the NFL that I was kind of thinking about too, with how ugly things looked for the Patriots. Let's go back 2 years. It's a little bit less than 2 years when the Patriots hosted the Lions in that early October game at Gillette Stadium. Patriots beat the doors off of them. 29-0 was the final score. And the Lions were awful to start that season. And then they turned it around midseason and finished the year 9-8 with that win in Green Bay to knock them out of a playoff spot. I don't expect this Patriots team to do that. And I do think that, that they're probably more like the Lions the year before that went 3-13-1 and didn't win a game until, what was that, after Thanksgiving or the week before Thanksgiving? I think the week after Thanksgiving was when they won their first game. These Patriots are probably a little bit more like those Lions than the 2022 Lions. But, we've seen the history of this team. I don't think we should be strangers to the fact that teams change during the year.
Yeah.
Teams grow, learn, develop for the better and for the worse. It can still get worse. It can always get worse. But there's a chance that you find something in the offensive line. Some of the young players get better, and you're able to field a competent offensive line from the middle of the season on, and you put Drake Maye in, and he looks good. Because he looks good, your wide receivers start looking better, and you feel like Polk is somebody who can develop into a number one for you. And all of a sudden, maybe you win three out of your last 5 games or something, and you go into next year feeling really good. Like, that is very much a possibility for this team. So, it's easy to get down on things. Things are rough right now. There are a lot of injuries, but things can change fast in the NFL. And I think the driver for that, like we said, is growth, internal growth.
100%. And you look around. You look around at what the Lions did, and I especially look at the draft last year, right? And they were the laughing stock after the draft last year, right? Everyone laughed at them because they drafted a running back and a linebacker in the first round, and then a safety and a tight end in the second round. And everyone thought, "You're insane. What are you doing?" And it turns out all 4 of those guys are pretty damn good, right? So so that's one of those things where sometimes we don't see it. Right. And it turns out that it's pretty good. So let's give it some time and let's see. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. And we can always move on from there. But like, we're talking about canning AVP after 4 weeks. Like, relax, pump the brakes, would you? Like, we're 4 weeks in with no offensive line and a crappy quarterback with no offensive weapons. What the hell do you want the guy to do? You know what I mean? And by the way, nobody was bitching after week 1. So, like, you know what I mean?
And that's, when we talk about making decisions about this stuff, about jobs, you look at big pictures. You don't look at small pictures. We don't even have a big picture yet. Let's see how it looks. If you don't like the job a guy's doing, you got plenty of time to fire him. A lot of time to fire
100%.
him. Yeah, was that Ninkovich on a podcast who was talking about wanting Dable to come to New England?
Yeah.
I didn't like that, quite frankly, because we have an offensive coordinator here. And I get that the offense doesn't look good. But let's not start wish casting about hiring other coaches with 13 games to go in the season. We don't know what this is going to look like in 13 weeks. And maybe in 13 weeks, we agree that we want to go a different direction on things. But let's let it play out before, making comments like that, especially because they're in the middle of developing a young quarterback. And I don't know. I don't think swapping out an offensive coordinator for the shiny new toy is necessarily the best way to handle quarterback development.
Yeah.
Even though I love Dable, he's done a fantastic job. I think he'd be great for Drake Maye. I don't object to that pairing at all, but let's not start a discussion on replacing our offensive coordinator just because the offense that we all thought would stink happened to stink for 2 weeks on the road against great defenses.
Yeah. So, I mean, whatever. All right, let's take a quick break. And then we'll get back into this. We'll talk about the actual game that's coming up and whether they can actually win or not. But let's take a quick break first. First, we're going to go with Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. That's right. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Now, it is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. All right. So what you're going to do is you're going to sign up today and you're going to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts selected players' projections up to 25% with even more value for your lineup. Now, this week, I'm going with Braylon Allen for more than 33.5 rushing yards, Rome Odunze for more than 2.5 receptions, and Mark Andrews for less than 22.5 receiving yards. That's what I'm doing. I'm betting on Mark Andrews to not do anything again. So what you're going to do is you're going to download the app today and use the code CLNS to get $50 off, to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right. Nice. So, I think I might just ignore the comments for a little while. We got a lot of angry people in the chat. It's okay. It's all right. It's all right. I get it. You're upset about things, and it's totally fine. And we are happy that you're going to vent. We're just not going to respond to the venting, just so you guys know. Feel free to vent. You can shout into the void. We're just not going to be here to answer you. Look, the Dolphins are coming to town. The Patriots are actually favored, as you can see underneath. The Patriots are favored by 1. Now, technically, you get 3 points. Vegas gives you 3 points, right? Because you're the home team. So I guess technically, if it was a neutral site, the Dolphins would actually be favored by 2. Nevertheless, okay. Regardless of that, the Patriots are favored in the game. So we'll see how that goes. I will say the Dolphins look god-awful. Just god-awful. Yeah. And an interesting thing is that I've kind of always crapped on Tua and been like, Tua kind of stinks and he's not that good. I mean, my God, dude. Like, talk about talk about like insurance. Tua is just sitting back like, or what do you got to say now? I'm the best
Yeah,
quarterback in the damn league. You take me out and the offense stinks. You put me in. It's one of the best offenses in the NFL. So
there
it's really a fascinating situation.
there was no backup plan in Miami for what would happen if Tua
It's
went out because
wild.
the entire offense is built around like timing and precision. It's like think of the '01 Rams, but to an insane degree.
Right.
And I think like, to a point, you can only run that with a quarterback who knows the system, who's been in the system for a long time, who has established trust with the receivers because every throw is anticipation. You're just saying this guy's going to be there, so I'm going to throw it to the spot, even though I don't see that he's there. And you replace Tua with first Skylar Thompson, and
Who
then
actually
who else?
has been there for a while, right?
Yep,
Which is
who's
weird.
hurt, I believe. And then what was it? Tim
Snoop Huntley.
Boyle.
Yeah,
Well,
Huntley.
Tim Boyle, but yeah, now it's Tyler Huntley, somebody who just came in recently. He doesn't know the offense. He's a very different style of quarterback than who you would typically play in this. And you couple that with the fact that the core of Miami's offense has always been the running game. It's the fact that they are so fast and so nimble. They can run on you at will because they're going to confuse you, and they're going to use that to get two of the fastest players in the league wide open for big, big plays.
Right.
They can't run the ball this year. They cannot run, which shuts the entire thing down because, if you can't run and you can stop the run without having to devote a lot of players to it, all right, well, now it's not as hard because you can still double Tyreek and double Jalen Waddle and have enough guys in the box to stop the run.
Right.
Well, now what do you do? Which I think that makes this a really good matchup for New England defensively because assuming Anthony Jennings is back, this should be a good run defense. Should be able to keep that contained. And the Patriots have the personnel to defend Miami in man coverage in the passing game. So, Miami this should be a get right game for the defense. Dolphins should be scoring way less than 20 points. They should probably be in single digits if we're being honest with ourselves.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, especially after what we've seen, right? They've just been brutal. I just think, yes, the run defense should be a lot better. I'm expecting the Patriots defense to come out and play well. And, we'll see what we get from the offense. I really don't know what we're going to get from the offense. But, Miami's defense is good, but they're not amazing. Jalen Phillips, their best pass rusher, is now out for the season.
Again,
which really sucks for him. And he had a ton of injury history coming into the draft. That was one of the big concerns with him was the injury history. And so, that's tough for him. And that stinks, to see something like that happen. But, I don't know what the rest of their defense looks like. They're fine. They're okay. Bradley Chubb is a few guys, but and obviously they have Jalen Ramsey still, but I don't think their defense is very good. And so you should be able to do some things against their defense. Now, whether they will or not, I don't know, but theoretically, you should be able to do something. Can you get Ramondre Stevenson going? Do you want to play? Well, that's really the thing, right? Do you want to play Antonio Gibson a little bit more? Antonio Gibson, and I like Ramondre a lot. Love Ramondre. But you see that burst from Gibson. He's got that burst that Ramondre doesn't really have a burst like that, right? The run that he had, was it against, I think it was against the Seahawks, where he broke the tackle in the backfield and took off for 40 yards downfield or something like that. It was an unbelievable run, right? And as good as Ramondre is, he's not doing that. He's not fast enough to do that, right? Gibson is. And so he gives you a little bit of a dynamic player in the backfield. I'd like to see him catching the ball a little bit more out of the backfield. I'm surprised that they haven't had him catching the ball out of the backfield more. So we'll kind of see where that goes from there. But, can you mix some things up a little bit more? I think Jalen Polk has earned kind of being that first read. He should be that first read guy on almost every single play. And obviously not every single play, but he should be that guy, for a lot of times. Should be that first read. And maybe he's not open every time, but I'd like to see him the first read. I want to get Pop Douglas more involved. Jacoby Brissett, for whatever reason, won't throw to him. And this is the other part of it, is that, like, when you watch the passing plays, right, and we can shit all over AVP all you want, when you watch the passing plays, there are guys open everywhere. There are
Yeah, I
guys
don't.
open everywhere.
This
And he's
this
just not
receiving,
throwing to them.
we've talked about the lack of a number one wide receiver and all that, but I think that's masked the fact that the wide receiver core is getting better. Like
Right.
Pop is open, Jalen Polk is open, KJ Osborne is solid. He's an NFL receiver. Kayshon Boutte has had a couple of really nice moments. Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper, two guys who can make plays for you out there at the tight end position. Like, this isn't like a top half of the league receiving unit,
Right.
but that unit can be productive. And I think, this is something that Evan Lazar has been talking about. That was something we had talked about with Pop, not one Jacoby Brissett not wanting to throw him the ball because he's smaller. And like, if there's open receivers on tape and your quarterback won't throw the ball because he's afraid of accuracy or can't deal with pressure or whatever, at that point, why is Drake Maye not in the game?
Correct.
Because these are the issues you're worried about with Drake Maye in terms of how the offense is going to run. If it's going to be the same issues either way, why not let the rookie play and get some experience? Now, obviously, the question that's immediately going to come back to that is how good quality is this experience going to be behind the line. But I also worry about, 4 weeks into the season, we got wide receivers throwing up hands in frustration all over the tape because they're not getting the ball. That's not good.
When they're wide open, right? And Pop Douglas talked about that today, how he was embarrassed that he did that and he apologized and whatever. But, like, he's right. He's right. He's wide open, right? And that's part of the problem, is that, like, on the pick six that he throws, he's got two guys wide open. And he's throwing to Tyquan Thornton on an in route, in traffic, in a play that, like, I guess he would have caught it, but, like, it's kind of a contested catch. The guy's right near him. He's got two other guys wide open. What the hell is he doing throwing that pass in the first place? And so
we never
that's
looks
part
the other way.
Right. And that's part of the issue, is like, and I think that's the biggest point for me. And really, the number one thing comes down to me with this. Don't tell me about the offensive line. Don't tell me about what it looks. I don't care. None of that stuff matters. What matters is your locker room. Because what you have to understand here is that the players, they understand. They know. If they're watching the film and they're watching the practice and they know Maye is better than Brissett, and you're sticking Brissett out there anyways, as a player, you're like, dude, screw you, man. Like, I'm out here trying to win. I'm busting my ass every single game, trying to win, doing the best I can. Nothing for me is promised tomorrow. My contract isn't guaranteed. I have to play the best I can possibly play. And you got some schmuck out there we don't have a chance to win with? Yeah. And so now you start seeing players get pissed. Then they start to rebel. Then the culture starts to go away. When that happens, it's over. That cannot happen. And so once that starts, or once you feel that in the air, you got to pull the plug immediately. Brissett's got to go to the bench, and Maye's got to be the starter, because that's the way it has to be, right? It's just the way it has to be. Once you see that Maye is better, it's over. And I think we're already at that point. I think when you see
defensive coach talking to the press about, I had to go rewind practice films. I was so impressed with Drake Maye.
Right. And when you see Polk upset, and when you see Pop upset, when you see these guys upset, they're not upset at the play call. They're upset that they're open, they're not getting the ball. That's what they're upset about. And so it's like, yeah, I was open. You didn't throw me the damn football. Like, what are we doing here? And that's that's a problem. That's a problem. And so, we'll see ultimately what it comes down to. And what's going to happen. But I'll tell you, if the offense goes out and the film looks like it has the last 2 weeks, where they can't get anything going, and you got receivers open everywhere and then they're just not getting the ball, that's it. That's it. It's over. Like, you have to pull the plug on Brissett. It is what it is. And TD, I know you want Polk to be pissed at AVP. I know you do. But, like, he wasn't. Sorry.
And
I
I
didn't even see an outburst from him. I don't even know what you're talking about. So
yeah, I don't think any player is going to be upset at Brissett specifically because they clearly respect him a ton. It's
right,
going to be
right.
general
Just the situation.
frustration
Right.
that the play isn't good enough. Players respect players. They're not going to – they know that Brissett's doing his best back there. They're not going to be pissed at him for, doing things wrong. They're going to just be upset that they are done wrong and want something done to try to make things
Correct.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. When it comes to this game this week, though, they got a real chance of winning this one. And I expect the team to be competitive. Forget about the injury. I know the injuries are rough for New England right now. You need to be competitive in this game. Even if you lose, that can be fine. You're not that good of a team. You're banged up. You're starting a journeyman. I'm not even sure. Brissett might not be the best quarterback in this game still with in there.
It's wild.
It's not great for either one of these teams right now. This shouldn't be a blowout, really, in either direction. These teams are about equal right now, and it should play that way. It should probably be a first team to 10 points wins type of game. It should be ugly. This is not. There's a reason they pulled Tom Brady off the broadcast for this one because no one's tuning in.
That's correct.
I forget who it was, but some of the other power rankings out this week, and this was 31 versus 32. More power rankings.
I mean, checks out. It checks out, right? As Will Ferrell would say, the math seems to check out.
Yes. The Dolphins are one of the few teams worse than New England in DVOA so far this year, which this is the crazy thing. So the Dolphins are, and then the Bears, I believe, or Tennessee. Let me double check here. Oh, no, neither. Jacksonville is also worse.
Yeah.
Which means, there's a real chance the Patriots sweep Miami and beat Jacksonville and get 4 wins for the year out of that, which we'll see what that does to their draft stock. Which, speaking of draft stock, just going to relay this. I was listening to Dan Brugler earlier, starting to talk about next year's draft class. So all 3, or the top 2 guys that we've talked about at tackle, Campbell out of LSU and Banks from Texas, along with, I believe, Ursery is his name, tackle in Minnesota. He has said that he has heard from some scouts, at least, on all 3 of those tackles. These are possibly the top 3 tackles in the class. All of them might be seen as guards by the NFL.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And the only one who's at the top who's not in that category is Emery, I think his name is, the other tackle from LSU, and he's a right tackle. So
it's wild.
Yeah, we'll see how this plays out. But at the end, there's a lot of discussion about this draft class not being particularly strong, but there only being about 10. Typically, there are 20 to 25 players. They get what's considered a first-round grade by the NFL. And this year, it sounds like it might be closer to 10 to 15, which is very small. So we'll see what this looks like for New England. But, I don't know if – the draft comes when it'll come. I'm not going to get into that discussion too early, but that's a yikes right there.
Sure is. It sure is, But I'll tell you, the more I see it, the more I'm like, do you just draft Travis Hunter and just say screw it? He's just so damn good, man. It's crazy. And what's crazy about it is that I don't even care. Does he want to play wide receiver or corner? I don't care. Whatever. Who cares?
Let him do the Marcus Jones, where he can just kind of give him a package on offense, give him a package on defense, let him play special teams if he wants.
He's doing something that no one's ever done before. Nobody's ever done what he's doing right now. Right? I mean, he's going to finish the year with he's going to finish the year with 90 catches. He's going to finish the year with 90 catches, and he's the best cornerback in the nation. It's insane. It's completely insane.
Yeah, it's incredible. I will say, when it comes to who the Patriots could pick, if we're at a spot where there's no offensive tackle that looks good, most at the top of this class is defensive front 7 players and corners and guys like that. Draft a front 7 player. Go draft an edge rusher. Because if you get a lot could be made of the way you build all of this, but let's not forget that the 49ers became the 49ers also because they got a whole bunch of top edge rushers all in the draft and were able to stack their lineup. So the Jets have done, they've turned that defense into a monster because of that.
Yeah.
if the worst case scenario is you come away with a guy who you think can be a Pro Bowl edge rusher and defensive end, that's awesome because Keon White and Christian Barmore and that guy, you're still not going to score on offense, but you're hoping Drake Maye fixes that and your defense doesn't allow more than 10 points a game.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's do our second ad and then we'll finish up here.
Yeah. All right. Let me load up here. I love going to watch Patriots games. Heading down to Gillette Stadium, see the fans tailgating on the way in, smell the grill, smell the beer as you walk into that stadium. And you could do it, this week to see the Patriots play the Dolphins, or the week after when the Patriots play the Texans, or 2 weeks after that when the Patriots play the Jets, any of which could be the, starting debut for Drake Maye in the NFL. And Game Time makes this easier than ever before. The new feature called Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Let's take a look at the game just this very Sunday as the Patriots host the Dolphins. Plenty of seats. I'm looking at the map right now. Plenty of seats available. You can still get nosebleeds for under $120 if you want, but I'm seeing it starred right here. You can get down on the sideline, pretty close with a great view right along the sideline. $238. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. And that deal right there is highlighted for me. It's all in pricing, so that's exactly what I am going to pay for the tickets, not a penny more. Makes the whole thing so much easier. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
Love it. All right. I don't know. I mean, it's too early to talk about the draft. We can't get into the draft. I can't do it. Can't do it.
I gotta start watching the draft film.
Will Campbell's 6'6", 320, by the way. Like, there's no way he's a guard. There's just no way.
They're talking about him having 32-inch arms. Typically, the minimum for NFL tackles is
right?
30. Depending on the team, either 34 or 33. Like the Patriots were known they'd go for high 32s at the absolute lowest. Scar was pretty good at making that work anyway. If it's straight 32, which is what I think Brugler was saying he had heard at one point, that's not going to do it. Like he's going to Peter Skoronski type. He's just going to be a tall guard. They're going to move him inside there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll see about Banks and Ursa. Banks and Ursa are big too, so I don't know how much I believe that, but
but it's scary to think about. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I know
scary to think about.
There might not be, a left tackle in this draft, and I think what's worse, the only thing worse than I don't know, the worst case outcome I think for New England in this draft is drafting a tackle, playing at left tackle, having him completely bust, and you go back to Wikipedia in 5 years, and that's the one name that's not a Pro Bowler in that whole thing because the rest of the guys are all defensive Pro Bowlers. So, went on. And we all know the straight shots we're talking about when it's the one pick and the receiver punch that wasn't good.
Yeah, we do. The one I always think about, and I'm pulling it up right now because I'm just curious to see what it looks like around him. Oh, Lord. Oh, my God. It's such a bad one, dude. Robert Gallery is maybe the worst one of all time. Drafted by Oakland, tackle out of Iowa. The dude was an absolute monster, huh?
Yeah, this was 07, right?
04.
Who am I thinking from 07 then?
I don't know. But 04 went Eli Manning, Robert Gallery, Larry Fitzgerald, Phillip Rivers, Sean Taylor, Kellen Winslow Jr., Roy Williams, the wide receiver from Detroit, D'Angelo Hall, and then 11 with Roethlisberger, 12 with Jonathan Vilma, Tommy. It just brutal. Stud after stud after stud after stud, and they took literally when it shows up, Wikipedia does a thing where it's like if they're Pro Bowlers, like if they made a Pro Bowl, it's like lit up in yellow, right? And it's like everything is yellow around them. Just Robert Gallery's the only one it's like
Yeah.
brutal, dude.
Yeah.
So, and that's
yeah. Yeah, they never want to be that team. Side note:
no,
if
you
you're
do
ever
not.
looking for some background entertainment, I was doing this over the summer. And I'm up at late at night playing video games or whatever, and I just want some background sound. I was throwing on old NFL drafts, so I just find like the full draft on YouTube and just throw it on in the background, and it is really funny to
Yeah.
hear the way the players get talked about, both good and bad. Funny to hear the way that football discourse has changed over time. I think we've gotten a lot better about talking about football in the last 20 years
Right.
because some of the analysis back then was not that sophisticated at all. And it's funny to hear them. And then
Yeah.
every once in a while, you get a real nugget of wisdom, or you get reminded of a storyline you forgot about or something. I think the draft I was watching was the 04 one, actually.
Really?
So listening to you talking about Gallery, knowing that he was a complete and total bust is crazy.
Yeah.
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 That's
It's
one
tough
source.
when you're drafting that high, it's hard because you're just like, man, you can't miss. If you're in the top 5, if you're in the top 10, you just can't miss.
It feels like you're playing Minesweeper. There's a bomb in there somewhere. You just don't want to
Right.
be the one to click on it.
100%. 100%. And it's just like, unfortunately, sometimes those things happen and you just like, you miss out and you're like, well, we tried to draft the right guy and we didn't. And sometimes you draft the right guy and it doesn't work anyways. The guy gets hurt or, in RG3's case or whatever the case may be. So, but anyways, that's one of those things. Like you're right. Worst case scenario for the Patriots is that, obviously worst case scenario is Drake Maye doesn't work. Right. But worst case scenario for next year is that they draft someone in the top 5 and whomever that is doesn't pan out. And now you're looking at it saying, crap, now we're behind the 8 ball again. Right. And, and listen, but I do think with a little bit of luck and some good coaching that we can turn some of these, draft picks from the last few years into decent players. And, we can build this roster up a little bit more than it has been. Again, it's going to require a little bit of work, but I think they can do it.
Well, I think you look at a guy too, like a lot's going to get made of City So, Leighton Robinson, your 2 young guards, Cole Strange winning if he returns this season. Vidarian Lowe is a guy I look at. Like when he's healthy, he's going to be the left tackle for this team.
Right.
With Okorafor gone, and like Wallace has been banged up and didn't really look that good when he played. So I think Lowe is going to be the left tackle until he's might be the rest of the way as long as he's healthy.
Yeah.
He's still relatively young. If you can turn him into a better player, doesn't even mean you're not drafting left tackle next year, but it means you have depth going forward. Because this is, multiple years in a row now where the offensive line just gets hammered early and you never recover offensively. And if we're in a spot where, somebody got hurt and we got to start very low for 2 games next year, you want to be okay with that. You don't want the offense to not completely crumple because that happened to you. The other thing, we're talking about drafting someone, they might not be ready week 1. I don't think Matt Light was a week 1 starter when he was drafted. I think
he was not. He was not.
Yeah.
He actually came in at right tackle, I believe, and then switched over to left tackle because I feel like that's right. That he played a few games at right tackle because someone got hurt, and then he moved over to left tackle, I believe.
Yeah. So, Lowe turned into a guy who can be a swing tackle spot starter for you, who can start the season while you're letting guys develop too next year. Like, that's huge. If that can be even a Band-Aid fix on your left tackle situation, that also gives you more flexibility and freedom going into the offseason. Let's say you get to the draft and you don't think there's a left tackle in the draft, at least not one in the first round. All right, well, I guess we're starting low, and we don't like that, but we'd rather have a good player at another position and low than swing and miss on a tackle and also not get a good player at a different position. Like, and you're trying to build a team here, and sometimes you got to just take the best player available.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, and so we'll see ultimately what it comes down to, but but yeah, I'm interested in that. I'm curious about who the heck yeah, it's an interesting question about what happened there. with Matt Light. Yeah. Anyways, I'm like, all right, because I know he went in for someone that got hurt. It says Greg Randall was playing the right tackle and Matt Light was playing left tackle, but he only started 12 games and he only played 14. So he did not start the year as the left tackle, but I don't know. I don't know who was playing tackle. So
yeah, it looks like
I'm not helpful, I guess, in that.
I'm looking at his Pro Football Reference page right now, and he didn't play week 1, but he started week 2. So somebody must have either gotten hurt or didn't play well.
Maybe Grant Williams. Looks like Grant Williams got 4 starts here at tackle.
Yeah.
So
it must have been Grant Williams.
Maybe that's who it was that started left tackle. Because Greg Randall, who back then was Greg Robinson Randall, but Greg Randall was the right tackle. So
yeah, Matt Light started week 2 at left tackle.
Yeah, so he did, but he didn't. He only started 12 games of the season. I don't know if he got hurt. Maybe he got hurt later on in the year. I don't know.
I think there were some injuries in here.
But anyways, we digress. But it is interesting when you look at what happened and where things happen. And again, you had the benefit of having the greatest offensive line coach in the history of the NFL. Kind of helps, right? That helps, right? And so you don't have that anymore. I think Scott Peters is fine, but like he's got some work to do, and I think that we can hopefully build these guys into being better players. But it's going to take some time. And again, we just have to. Everyone has to remember, like they're all rookies too. AVP is a rookie as far as play calling is concerned. DeMarcus Covington's a rookie. DC certainly with play calling. And Drake Maye is a rookie head coach, and Jeremy Springer's a rookie special teams coach. Which, by the way, special teams have been really good the last few weeks. So I'm happy that's kind of rounding in shape.
Outside of the field goal block,
the block field goal, right?
Yeah, they've been good. By the way, speaking of one thing, I want to see from AVP in particular, I want to see more motion at the snap. The Patriots are dead last in the NFL in motion at the snap. I get why it's low to a degree. I think they want the defense to be static so that the quarterback can read it out a little bit more. I just don't think that's working for you. If there's one thing I've kind of noticed as a pattern, both with Brissett and with May and Zappi beforehand, for a while in New England, it's felt like the snap timing hasn't been all that great. I think this is one area where Brady was really good. Like Mac Jones had a habit of snapping the ball right as blitzers were timing up their blitz. And it was like, just don't do that. Like throw in another or like have some awareness. Don't snap it like right then. Like give it another second so that he has to stop.
Yeah.
Brissett feels like almost the opposite. Like he will wait for things to be like fully static a lot before he's snapping the ball. And it feels like sometimes you lose a little bit of momentum from that. And also when that happens, defenders can time up the snap. So I haven't loved the pre-snap operation from any of those quarterbacks in terms of timing with what defense is doing. Maybe I got too blessed with Brady all these years. But
well, and maybe that's the case, right? I don't know, right? I mean, obviously, after when you watch Brady play the game, it's like he's playing a different game, right? It's like he's not even playing the same game a lot of guys are playing, and so we were spoiled for a really long time. And so we can't really compare him to what they did, but we can just look around the league and just see like it's a simple thing, right? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So,
game picks.
Yes, let's do our game picks. We'll run through those really quick, and then we'll do our prize picks things, and we'll get the heck out of here.
Yeah. All right. Last week. Not a good week for me. It was a very good week for you, Pat. We had the same picks in the Thursday and 1 o'clock games. Both nailed those. The next 3, the 4 o'clock Sunday night, Monday night, all went Pat's way. Pat went 5. I went 2 for 5.
Too bad I didn't do a five team parlay. Shoot.
Commanders blowing out the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Ravens blowing out the Bills, and then Lions getting the best of the Seahawks, and it was a very, very fun competitive
That was a good game.
Yeah, it was an enjoyable one. I did not realize how banged up the Seahawks were when I made that pick. That is on me.
Yeah, 4 defensive starters. Not ideal.
Yeah, not ideal. Go ahead to this week. Look at the way the records changed. Pat 15-5. I am 13-7.
It's a big one. It's a big jump.
Yeah. Big jump, big swing here in our little game. The games we got on tap this week. The Thursday night game, Buccaneers at Falcons. Sunday 1 o'clock. I don't know how this ended up as a Sunday 1 o'clock game. Is Bills at Texans? This feels like it should be a 4 o'clock game.
It's a solid game. Yeah, it's a really good game.
Yeah, 4 o'clock game is going to be Packers at Rams. Sunday night game is Cowboys Steelers. Monday night game, Saints at Chiefs. Let's kick it off with Thursday night football. NFC South rivalry. Buccaneers at Falcons. Where are you going, Pat?
Going Bucks. I like what the Bucks bring to the table. I think they play hard. I think they're a good team. I like Baker quite a bit. The Falcons are a good team too. They gave everything they had to the Chiefs. And we're starting to kind of see some things come from Kirk Cousins in that offense. Took a little bit of a step back last week. I think that even on the road, I like the Bucks' chances of pulling off what I think probably would be considered an upset because it's in Atlanta, but is a pretty evenly matched game.
Yeah, I'm going the other way on this. I'm gonna take the home team with the Falcons. This is just a vibes pick to me, but I think the Falcons are doing some good things, and the Buccaneers, they've done some really good stuff, but I feel like they have more so taken advantage of awful teams.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe it's I like a lot of pieces on that team. I didn't expect the offense to be this good. I was not that high on Liam Cohen as an offensive coordinator, so I will be willing to admit that I'm wrong on that, but not after just 4 weeks. I want to see it for a little bit longer. I'm going to take the Falcons in a close home win.
I like it.
Yeah. Bills at Texans. Texans are debuting one of their two new alternate uniforms in this game.
They're a little weird.
Yeah, it's their H-Town alternates, it's called. So it's still navy blue, but it's got like red numbers, and they add in the old Houston Oilers light blue to it. I kind of like them. But yeah, Bills going on the road here looking for revenge after losing last week, trying to turn the page. Do they do it, Pat?
I think they do. The Bills' biggest issue is their run defense, and the Texans have no healthy running backs. Also, I will say the Texans just barely beat the Colts, just barely beat the Bears, and just barely beat the Jaguars, and got blown out by the Vikings. And so they're 3-1. I don't think they're quite as good of a 3-1 as we think. The Bills laid an egg this week for sure, 100%. But I do think that they're a better team than what we saw the other day. But that's neither here nor there, I guess. But man, I'd say the Bills get that win.
Yeah, I'm right there with you for a lot of the same reasons. I think defensively, this is a much better matchup for them than last week was. Last week's at the worst possible scenario, and something like what the Texans do, I think, is exactly what, when it comes to good offenses, this is what the Bills are built to slow down. And Sean McDermott's a good defensive coordinator against good defensive head coach against a young quarterback. So I kind of like the odds of confusing him. Plus, Houston's been a little underwhelming to start the year.
Yeah,
they've been good, but just good.
Right.
So I'm gonna take both got the Bills on the road in this one. Next up, a little NFC battle. This 4 o'clock slot we've had be an NFC battle a couple of times now. We're staying out west with Packers at Rams.
I like it. I'm going Pack. I mean, the Rams are a mess right now. Sean McVay had his PMT was calling it the kitchen sink game where he just threw everything, and they won the game not last week but the week before. Came back down to earth again last week. They just don't have anyone healthy, right? Kupp's still not healthy. Puka Nacua is still not healthy. They just don't have healthy players yet. And so for me, I look at it and just think the Packers are just a better team than the Rams are. And so they should win this game. And Jordan Love, now with his second game back, that's what I would say.
Yep. Yeah, I'm right there with you. The Rams usually find a way to pull some kind of magic out and at least make things close at points. Sean McVay is a good coach, but I don't know. The fact that it's two similar coaches here, I feel like this game ends up being much closer than it should be based on the rosters of the two teams. it's not the same, but it does feel a little bit like whenever Belichick would go against one of his disciples type of things. Like those games always just be weird and close.
Yeah.
This is going to be the same thing, but I do think the Packers get the win. Like what you said, Jordan Love finally getting to be comfortable out there. I think that'll matter.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yep. Sunday Night Football. This is a classic NFL battle with the Cowboys and the Steelers.
It sure is. And this time I have the Steelers pulling off the win. I'm ready to get hurt again by Justin Fields. I'm ready to get hurt again. I love Justin Fields. I love me some Justin Fields. He's playing really well right now. He's going to turn into a pumpkin at some point, or maybe he won't, but he's going to throw up a clunker at some point. I just don't think it's going to be this week. I think that the Cowboys are reeling. They're not as good as people thought they were going to be. And the Steelers still have very good defense. And with Fields there, quarterback, like they have some juice on offense, man. They really do. And so I'm going with Steelers.
I don't feel good about it, but I am picking the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are probably better than what we have seen so far this season. I think the Steelers are probably worse than what we've seen so far this season. I'm just going to take a guess that this is the game where those start to normalize a little bit. I don't like this. I don't feel that comfortable with it. I don't really like the way the Steelers' offenses looked against a defense like Dallas's. Like, I don't know if that's a great matchup, but I don't know.
Yeah. It's the Cowboys. Anytime you're picking the Cowboys, you're not going to feel good about it. You know what I mean?
God, no. And then Monday Night Football, Saints at Chiefs. This is a weird. Who picked this game to be a Monday Night Football game?
It's a strange game. It's definitely a strange game. So here's the thing about the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are giving me kind of in between the 2004 and the 2014 championship Patriots vibes, right? But specifically between 11 and 14, right? Those teams that were good and, got to the AFC Championship game, or even the 2010, not so much, but, the 2009 team, or, 11, 12, 13, where like you just, you play the game, you're like, this team stinks. They suck. And somehow they win the game. And you're like, what the heck? How did they just win that game? Like they've no reason to have won that game, and they somehow win the game. They pull it off. And so I think that will last in the regular season. I do think when it comes down to the playoffs that might fall off. I do think they're going to throw up a few clunkers during the regular season as well and lose games that no one expects them to lose. Could this be one of them? Yes. I'm not going to say it is because I'm going to pick the Chiefs. But I just think that they strike me as that kind of team. Now, I don't know if there's any team right now that can beat them. I just don't know. What's so funny is you look around the league back when Brady played, and you look at the quarterback play and the teams specifically that were set up. I just feel like the talent level was so much higher then than it is now. I feel like the teams are dumber now. The coaching isn't as good. And frankly, the play across the board isn't as good. Think about the battles that Brady had with some of those quarterbacks and some of those like legitimately elite players. How many battles does Mahomes have? I mean, I guess he has Burrow, I guess. Has he battled against anyone else?
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen, okay.
Mahomes has come out on top pretty much every time.
Until Josh Allen actually wins something, he doesn't count. I'm sorry, he just doesn't. Like he's got to beat the Chiefs at some point.
I'm not counting the 17 seconds game against Josh Allen. You
That's fair. That's a fair point.
On the road with the lead with 17 seconds left and lose. That's not on you.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. This is such a I don't know. It's a weird game because I don't think the Saints are good. I don't think the Chiefs are that good. Well, the Chiefs are going to get beaten by teams this year. This is more 2005, 2006 Patriots than 2003, 2004 Patriots in the way they look. They're banged up.
Yeah.
Mahomes is not playing his best ball this year. Offensive line's not that good. They're better than the Saints. They should win this game. So they're going to be 5-0, right?
Yeah. They haven't lost yet.
That's like the most uncomfortable 5-0. Like that's one of those 5-0.
100%.
where it's going to come apart at some point.
Well, what's that? The 2019 Patriots when they were what? Were they 9-0? And it was just like it was all a facade.
Well, it happened in 2015 too. That one wasn't a facade. That team just got really, really badly injured in the second half of the season.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's the thing. If you have a good quarterback, or a great quarterback, that means that any close games you're gonna have really good odds of winning.
Right.
So when you have a kind of a mediocre team, sometimes you just get a lot of wins in a row because they're all close games anyway, and you happen to win them. And at some point, it'll start going the other way. Like the 2015 Patriots, the games that they lost down the stretch, there was an overtime game on the road to Denver. You had one of the weirdest football games I have ever seen in my life against the Eagles with 3 defensive or special touchdowns by Philly.
Mortar kick.
One of them being a 100-yard pick six. And they also lost that game at the Jets. That was also a road overtime loss with a weird coin toss debacle in overtime. And then the last game where they were too injured to really even compete. Like that's what it took to beat that team. I don't know what's gonna happen. Yeah, we're so far away from the point of Saints Chiefs here. Saints are not that good. I think they've done some cool things to start the season. I think this game's ugly, low scoring, closer than people expect, but it'll be like a I don't know, 23-13 Chiefs victory type of thing.
Yeah, something gross.
Yeah.
So those
are our picks for the week.
That's it. Those are our picks of the week. We got to do our prize picks things, and then let's get the hell out of here, man. I'm all set. Yeah. So my prize picks for the week, you already heard when I did the ad read, but I'll read them to you again because I think it's worth it. And so my picks for this week are Braylon Allen for more than 33.5 rushing yards, Rome Odunze for more than 2.5 receptions, and Mark Andrews for less than 22.5 receiving yards. Anyone that has Mark Andrews in fantasy knows he hasn't cracked that number yet this year. So maybe this will be the week, but I'm not banking on it. And so it's hard to catch passes when you don't get targets. So I'm going for less with Mark Andrews there.
I like it. I am going let's go with Rashad Bateman, more than 26.5 receiving yards against Cincinnati. The Bengals defense is not good. So anytime I can pick against their defense, I think I'm going to. I think there are other more thans you could probably take in this game if there are matchups that you prefer. I'm going to take Bateman because it's a lower number of receiving yards there. My other one, how about this for a fun one? CJ Stroud, more than 8.5 rushing yards against the Bills. The reason I like this is because the Bills play a ton of man coverage, too high safety stuff, so quarterbacks can take advantage with their legs. So yeah, and I always like looking at quarterback rushing yards things when it's not guys who typically run the ball, because sometimes you get really low numbers and it makes it a very fun viewing experience because anytime you watch, and you're just rooting, scramble.
Well, what's funny? So like Aaron Rodgers is more than 2.5. It's like 2.5. That's one scramble. But then you're like, well, it's one scramble, but if he only picks up 4 yards in the scramble and then they win, he might take a knee and then that might put him under 2.5. You're like, come on, like what the hell, So, so that's always fun, I agree with you. I like those are fun ones to do,
Yeah.
So
that's it. Those are my picks.
All right, I love it. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. We appreciate it. We had a fun episode, I think, for us.
Cathartic,
but maybe cathartic. I don't know. We'll see. But we're going to be back Sunday. It is a home game, so we will be live in between or during halftime of Sunday Night Football, and we'll be there. Thank you to the chat for chiming in as always. Listen, sometimes you're negative, and that's okay. We are the safe space that you can come to and complain about, vent about the Patriots. It's okay. We're okay with that. We won't get offended if you disagree with our takes and have strong takes of your own. That's all right. So. But anyways, thank you for tuning in, guys. We appreciate it, and we will see you guys on Sunday night, breaking down what should be a super fun Patriots Dolphins game. By the way, the line right now is 35.5. You going over or under 35.5? 35.5, so low. 35.5.
I feel like I have to take the over because the odds of a defensive score are high enough.
Right. But I feel like I don't know. Whew, 35.5 is such a low number. That's why they do it. That's why they do it. So, but anyways, all right, guys. Well, thank you, and we'll talk to you guys